eyebrows don't even look like cousins, let alone sisters. We're here to try and unlock this iPad. Installing an update. Today we are going to talk about endometriosis and PCOS. And you're in luck. I just suffered through an endo flare, which I have every 11 weeks. Well, 10 to 11 weeks. I get the Depo-Provera shot to help treat my endometriosis. Might not be for everyone. It works great for me. There's a short period of time between each shot, like the week before, where I am basically on my deathbed. Let's start with endometriosis first. I want to start this video by saying that it's unfortunate that there's even some medical websites that you can't really trust, like the Mayo Clinic. When I was doing research for this video, the Mayo Clinic basically made it seem like endometriosis was just a mildly heavy period and it wasn't that big of a deal and it was rare. All of those things are wrong. And that really pisses me off. It implies that it's only occasionally painful with occasional heavy bleeding. Also not true. Might be true for some people, but most people it isn't. I know they're also out here spreading misinformation about CFS-ME, so just don't ever get medical advice from the Mayo Clinic, I guess. So let's just dive right in. I did my research through Johns Hopkins University because they seem to have their shit together. What is endometriosis? With endometriosis, there's tissue that's very similar to uterine tissue that grows outside of the uterus. It usually grows on your reproductive organs, like the outside of your uterus, your ovaries, your fallopian tubes, and some pelvic muscles, and it can also grow in your abdominal cavity. Like endometrial tissue, the other tissue responds to hormonal changes. So it changes with your menstrual cycle, it builds up, breaks down, and because of this, there's bleeding. And the blood has nowhere to go when it is in your uterus. Normally, you shed that every month when you menstruate. This leads to inflammation, swelling, and scarring of surrounding areas of the tissue, which is incredibly painful. I'm sure you'd like to know what the cause is. Nobody has any fucking idea, which, amazing. Great. There's not really treatment or test when you don't know what it is. Where can it occur? Your ovaries. I have this nice little guy here, or girl. I lost my left ovary to endometriosis, so I bought this stuffed ovary to remember it by. It was a demon ovary, and it did nothing but make my life hell. Fallopian tubes, ligaments that support the uterus, the space between the uterus and the rectum, the space between the uterus and the bladder, I have that, outer surface of the uterus, lining of the pelvic cavity. Occasionally, it grows on the intestines, I have that, the rectum, the bladder, I have that, the vagina, the cervix, the vulva, and internal abdominal scars. So let's say you had a scar from another injury, it can grow on top of those scars. Risk factors. You have a first-degree relative who has it, mother, sister, daughter. Women who give birth for the first time after 30. I don't know anything about this. Women with an abnormal uterus. Also, I'm reading this word for word and realizing it says women, but it should be just people because men can have uteruses as well. Symptoms. Each person may experience symptoms differently, and some have no symptoms at all. So let's just go over some of these symptoms that someone could have. Pain, especially excessive cramping, that can be felt in the stomach and lower back. I have those. That is like the main symptom for me. Pain during intercourse. Not just that, but also if you are using tampons. Actually had to stop using tampons because the pain was so excruciating. Abnormal or heavy menstrual flow. I had periods that lasted weeks. I think my longest one was like 4 weeks. And they were incredibly heavy. I used to have to take changes of clothes to school. I would bleed that much. Infertility, painful urination during menstrual periods, painful bowel movements during menstrual periods, other gastrointestinal problems, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, bloating, have all of those. The amount of pain is not related to the severity of the disease. Can I speak? So you can have a severe case with no pain and a mild case with intense pain. Your diagnosis. Really, the only surefire way to be diagnosed with endometriosis, where somebody can be 100%, is laparoscopy surgery, where they go in with a little camera and they have to visibly see it. The scar tissue doesn't often show up on an MRI or a CT scan or anything like that. The treatment, this is where it gets kind of sucky because there's not really a good treatment. There's surgery to remove the lesions, but they can't remove lesions if they're on certain organs. Like in my case, I have some on my intestines and my bladder, and it would be unsafe to try to scrape or burn that off because it could do damage to those organs. Birth control or other hormone therapy, that's what I'm on. I do the Depo-Provera shot, so I do not have periods at all, which prevents the tissue from growing as fast. I still do have pain. I still have flares. It's not a cure by any means, but it is the best treatment for me. I have also had 3 surgeries, lost an ovary, and the surgeries do work, but only for a short period of time in my situation. And pain medication. Pain medication doesn't do anything for me, like across the board, not just with endometriosis. I know there are also stages to endometriosis, which I did not write down here. Stage 1 through 4, I'm somewhere between 3 and 4 based on like the amount of lesions I had and where they were growing. So let's just say I'm a 3.5. With my last surgery, I actually found that I also have PCOS. PCOS stands for polycystic ovary. I always say this ovarian syndrome, but it's not that. Polycystic ovary syndrome. And I was getting cysts quite frequently on my left ovary, but they were just large ones, and I had one removed. It was incredibly painful. And what we thought the pain was with that ovary and why it was removed is the last cyst I had engulfed the ovary and started to strangle it. I also did have the endometriosis tissue like cutting off blood flow, but they removed my ovary with the last surgery, and when the lab went over it after, it was polycystic, so it was full of cysts, which I got this diagnosis from. I do have a few other symptoms like the A1C problem, cholesterol problem, the problem like losing weight, and all my weight being in the middle. I attributed these to a lot of other things, such as just genetics and some side effects of medication. I do also just get hair here. All of my acne is usually here. Again, I thought the hair was the fact that I'm Italian, and like, what can you do? We're just hairy people. So I didn't put much thought into it until this. This is just a long rambling thing of my experience. So let's talk about what PCOS is exactly. It's where the ovaries produce an abnormal amount of androgens, which is a male hormone, I believe. I don't know if I wrote that down. We'll see. It describes numerous small cysts in ovaries, which my left ovary had. Some women do not have cysts, and some women without the disorder do develop cysts. So having cysts on your ovary is a pretty common occurrence, and I keep saying women, and I wrote it. People with ovaries can just develop cysts. It does just happen with ovulation, and it doesn't mean you have polycystic ovaries, and vice versa. For me, like, my hormones weren't incredibly out of whack, so nobody thought much of it. It just happened to be, we saw it when the ovary was cut up. Some people do not make enough hormones needed to ovulate, and when ovulation doesn't happen, the ovaries can develop many small cysts. These cysts make hormones called androgens. People with PCOS often have high level of the androgens. Mine was like ever so slightly high, but still in the range of normal. Causes, another thing that's unknown. It can run in families, very similar to endometriosis. These symptoms, you can be like me and you don't really have a ton of them. Missed periods, irregular periods, or light periods. I did not have this, probably due to the endometriosis. I have the opposite. Ovaries that are large or have many cysts, that was the case for me, but nobody caught that on an ultrasound. I know they had a really hard time when they would do ultrasounds finding my left ovary to begin with. Excess body hair, including chest, stomach, and back. I am Italian. I'm just hairy. I have like even very hairy arms. I don't know if you can see that. Weight gain, especially around the stomach. I have that. I just thought it was genetic, and the fact that I'm apple-shaped. Acne or oily skin. Baldness or thinning hair. Can you see how thin my hair is? Yeah, I also thought that was genetic. Infertility, skin tags. Hello. Dark or thick patches of skin on the back of neck, in armpits, or under breasts. I don't have that either. Diagnosis, ultrasound to check your ovaries and blood tests. Treatment, if you plan to become pregnant, change in diet and activity, medications to cause ovulation. If you are not planning to become pregnant, birth control, diabetes medication if you are pre-diabetic. I'm kind of like hovering there, so I could see myself ending up there one day. Change in diet and activity. I try to eat lower carb. Medications to treat other symptoms. As you can see, not amazing. Complications. You're more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, problems with your heart and blood vessels, and uterine cancer. And the worst news of all is it's incredibly common, and there's probably thousands plus people who have this disorder and don't even know. It sucks. It sucks because it's just sort of like, well, just go on a diet or just go on birth control. Well, birth control has a lot of negative side effects. Some people are incredibly sensitive to it. Not everyone wants to be on it. So I just wish there was a legitimate research behind it. I know there are theories as to what can cause either endometriosis or Pcos. None of them are proven. And even if it's true, what do you do about it? The one theory for endometriosis is that when you menstruate, the blood backflows out of the fallopian tubes. How do you stop that? What does that even mean? Another one is you start your period too early or too late. What do? Maybe hormone therapy? I don't know. So it's just kind of all of us who have these conditions are kind of just left in the dark. And it took me a little while living in a small town at the time to even get diagnosed. I was literally told I had endometriosis because I slept with too many boys at the age of 14. That's literally not how it works. It's just incredibly frustrating. I wish I could make a video that was a little bit more educational or had a little more information, but it's just not there for these illnesses. I hope if you know someone who is suffering with these, you understand a little better what they're going through. Really, knowledge is power, and just spread that information around, that it's not just bad cramps, or it's just not you need to exercise more to lose weight. It's literally both can be completely debilitating. Okay, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next week.